life is such a blur. Email details, more stuff. My business is consuming me. Am I really living? When do I get to do what energizes me and enjoy the rewards? Welcome to your second life. All is now doing what you love and loving what you do. It's radical creativity. Here's your host, the VIP coach, John Davidson.
All right, radical creativity, folks. We're here. It is the end of July 2012, and welcome to our show, calling out to all the entrepreneurs worldwide. This specific program, this radical creativity program, which was No Hype Allowed, is geared toward you. You are a professional. You are an experienced entrepreneur, and you're looking to go to the next level. We know this. You've come to this show to get new ideas, new tools, and you are, in fact, curious about hiring a coach. Or you are already an enrollee. You have enrollment in the VIP Coach Program, our world-class coaching program where we one-on-one take entrepreneurs through 8 particular capacities over 24 months, helping them become more productive, more profitable, and on purpose. So, on our show, we talk about the topics and the relevant stories and all the tools, all the new breakthroughs and findings. This is our depository. This is our holding place, our vault for all of the breakthroughs that occur in the VIP Coach. So, today's show is going to be about managing space. Managing space. Now, as I say that to you, I know where your mind is going. You're going, hey, JD, yeah, managing space, right? Yeah, exactly. I got my house. It's cluttered. I got all this stuff I got to do at my house. I got to manage the space there. Yep, I got to manage the space at my office. Oh, man, I've got all this space that I have to manage. That's not what this show is about today. Managing space is about managing the slowdown periods, the times when things get pretty desperate, when things feel like they've come to a standstill, underway in creating an outcome that you want to create. We all experience these spaces where things slow down. They appear to be dangerous. And so this show is going to provide you some ideas, some perspectives. It's going to give you a way through that space. So very similar to sailing to an island. Let's say we're sailing to Hawaii and we're on our boat and suddenly doldrums. There's no wind in the sails. There's nothing that we can bank on. If we crank the motor, we're going to run out of gas. It's just too far, too distant. So what do? How do we wait? How do we manage? What happens when we get emotionally tense? What do we do when the pressure starts to get high? What do we do when we start running out of food? What do we do when we start reaching the limits of what we can actually manage or withstand? We get to the ends of our levels of toughness. Because underway in the creative process, bringing business into being, going out and getting bigger clients, whatever the subject matter is, we all go through periods of bad weather. We go through periods of stoppages. We go through periods where it almost feels like we're going to choke and we're holding on by our fingernail. And our stamina and our mettle, our ability to persevere, is being tested. And I think over a series of these moments, if you talk to most entrepreneurs, there are times when they really grew the most, when they stretched the most, the moments when they really had to call on forces, bigger forces. They become ultra faithful, right? They realize they don't have all the answers. Something breaks them open during these spaces. They're just incredible learning experiences. Because if things are always going well, then they're always going well. And you wouldn't learn as much as you learn when you're in a quandary, you have an anomaly, you've hit an obstacle, you've hit a wall, and you don't know how to get under it, over it, or around it. And it calls upon innovation. It calls upon you seeking outside forces, getting help. So what do you do when you hit that? Go back. Think about your chronicle. Go back. Think about your history. Think about those most difficult moments when things got really, really slow. Maybe it was a business moment when things got really slow. The orders weren't coming in and you began to scratch your head, right? You go, what's going on here? I wonder what this means. And through that process, just imagine if you were to watch yourself thought by thought. Just imagine you were watching a television screen of all of the broadcasted thoughts that you have during those moments. Oh my gosh, I'm going to die. I wonder what's around the corner. Everything can collapse. How am I going to pay my bills? What am I going to do to make payroll? The money's not coming in. You expected something to happen, you see, but it's not actually happening. So what are you going to do? Get to know what you do. That's a great piece of input. Not everybody reacts the same way because we're not carrying around the same content in our thinking. You see, some of us are automatically, just through the weather, just through the experiences we've had, we've gotten tough. You see, we know that that's an inherent part of the creative process. In fact, professional creators of all kinds know that those periods where things slow down are absolutely necessary to the entire process. In fact, they're able to step back and see a bigger picture. They're able to see the relevance and the application. In fact, they actually find some level of enjoyment. They find some level of productivity. They find some level of application in what would appear to be to some others as a torture chamber, as a moment when things really, really are supposed to go differently. So, what do you do? How do you handle it? When the pressure gets really hot, what do you do when things slow way, 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 way down? Well, I think we all encounter a voice, and this voice is something that's born out of our conditioning. And this voice is something that creeps up on us. It comes from our shadows. It comes from the very, very core of our failures, from our fall-down points, and that is the voice of fear. That we just get encumbered by fear. One, because we have a lot more responsibility. We have people to pay. We have a home. We have kids to feed. We have a wife to support. We've got a lot of pressure on our back. We've set things up so we're obligated to support many, many things. And so when reality starts to go the other way, when things don't go the way we expected, we freak out. We tense up. We are feeling out of control, and we try to control things more. Or maybe we get real chronically irritated or frustrated, and everybody's going to know about it. We're just coming apart. Or you just hold it in, right? You don't want anybody to know because you don't want anybody to think that you're actually failing. You got to paint the impression that you're an expert. You don't want mom to find out that things are going wrong. She loaned you the money. Oh, boy, that would mean that things are going to crack. Or you don't want your investors to know because, oh, boy, that might not work. So we start to kind of make up stories. We torture ourselves thinking about what could be around the corner. And during those spots, we just fill our minds with all kinds of crap. We put our nose in shit. And we literally lash ourselves. We just torture ourselves into all these different scenarios. It totally takes us out of the present moment. We get into negative thinking. We get into self-doubt. And then you know what happens? It's like a snowball. It's like a death spiral. What's bad goes to worse. It's like a golfer being in a divot or in the sand trap, and boom, they can't get it out. And boom, you can't get it out. It's just a continuous spiral downward where one bad thing leads to a next and a next, and there's a compounding effect. It's like losing your expected sale, and then that bad thing just goes to worse. You lost the next one. You had a piss-poor attitude. You go into the next one. And so you just can't manage your state of mind. What I suggest that entrepreneurs do is, number one, stop paying so much attention to how you feel. Because creating really has nothing to do with how you feel. When you're creating, you're focusing on the subject matter. You're not focusing on yourself. So to get obsessive about how you feel or how you're being affected or what kind of victim you are being trespassed against or, trying to fix yourself or trying to manage or trying to cope, the bottom line is the whole focus is on you. And when the focus is on you and reality ain't jiving, that's when you're likely to make big mistakes because you're all caught up. Your identity is married to the process. You think it's about who you are. You think it's a sign that you're failing. You're worried about what other people will think. It's all predicated upon an underlying bullshit story. And that story that you're making up, that broadcast between the 6 inches of your ears, is just a story. But you feed it, right? And you want other people to know how bad it is. And then we dramatize it. Then we exaggerate it. Or just the opposite. We minimize it. Or, after work, because things are slowing down, because things don't go as expected, we go and we go and grab a drink, or we check out, or we deny, or we go get involved in our workouts to forget about it, or we go hide somewhere. We seek a refuge falsely to get some sanity, right? We have all these little mechanisms to escape. Or we own a boat. We go down to the boat and we think we're going to forget about it. Or we get away for the weekend. Or, I got to have a vacation. This is becoming so cumbersome. The monsters are just jumping on me. They're like leeches and parasites. And, I just can't look at the space. And, I can't face it. You see what I'm talking about? Is that you? You're just on the run, making up all this monstrous perception about reality. It's out to get me. What am I going to do? And when you wake up from the dream, you realize that a lot of it, in fact, 99% of it, is manufactured by thought. You've edited reality. Reality doesn't go your way. You didn't expect it to go that way. You needed it to go left. It went right. The client didn't buy. The invoice didn't pay. You didn't collect the money on time. Ba, 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 ba. You come to terms with the universe playing a wild card. And you realize just how powerless you are. Not suggesting that you are not worthy. I'm not suggesting that you're powerless because you're unworthy. You're not important. You're not superior. You're not good. No. It has nothing to do with that. You realize that you can't change the lawful nature of what the universe is doing. And when you realize that, instead of running parallel to it or running away, you run into it. You run into it. You face what this space could be about. And I tell you, man, in some of the spaces I've been in, oh boy, spaces in creating books. I expected my first book to come into being in 6 months. 3 years. 3 years. And boy, when I was in that, boy, was I going back and forth and kind of sword fighting and shielding certain thoughts. But I was in an interesting interplay with my mind. And what I realized after all of that is that the book, the creation, the business, the relationship, the marriage, whatever it is that you're creating, it knows. It has a sense of what's needed. It has a period of assimilation commensurate with what you want to create. And there's no way that you can know that. You can intend it, right? You can say, well, this is what I got my sights set on. But the universe may have something else in mind. So, for example, I've seen clients relocate. And they say, well, I really want to move outside the city. I'm going to move to the Southwest. And a year goes by. And then another year goes by. And what they begin to realize looking back is they realize all the stoppages and stalls were absolutely needed by the move, that the future somehow needed whatever was given to them in that moment. And then they laugh. They say, oh boy, if I had only known that, if I had only kept that in my consciousness when I was in that moment of turning on myself, that moment of being really unfriendly with me, because I thought it was my fault. I blamed myself for things getting worse. Or it looked so dismal that I thought, well, this must be a sign. You know, the way the universe works. You're filling in the blanks, right? Making assumptions. Well, this must mean I should get out of this. I shouldn't create that book. This must mean it shouldn't exist. Bullshit. Whatever time is needed. It may take more time. It may take less time. It may be easier. It may be more difficult. But we don't use that standard to set or reset our sights. That doesn't mean you change what you want to create. That doesn't blemish or tarnish or disrupt your intentions. You stay focused on what you want to create. What you create is not a function of the circumstances roughing you up. That doesn't dictate what matters to you. So it is rough. So sometimes there will be patches. So sometimes you will have to sit still. Sometimes there will be moments of stopping and silence, and there'll be gaps. There will be nothing happening. It feels like nothing's happening, that you're doing all the wrong things. But you have to remember something. See, the key here is amnesia. Amnesia is the key problem because you forget. You forget what you are in fact creating. So in those moments, what are you going to do? Are you going to rely on your forces of judgment, on that voice of judgment to use your past and your experience to make something up about the present, about why this is happening, what's happening, who you are as a response to it, you see? Are you going to beat it, slay the dragon with your will? Are you going to press harder and try to manipulate it? Are you going to react to it and become irritated and pass it forward and take it out on the world like a victim or a persecutor? Are you going to villainize? Oh, yeah, this happened. Boy, look who I'm going to destroy. Oh, boy, wait till they see me. Whereas if you just step back and you kind of see the whole process, you realize that we go into life and the reality is 50% of the time it's going to be bad weather and 50% of the time it's going to be good weather. If I'm going up the mountain and I'm going to climb, I can't let go of the truth that half the time things are going to work and probably half the time things are not. That reality is a 50-50 game. Can I get close and intimate with that? I can because it's in fact real. It's true. I can play the optimist. I can try to pretend it's not happening, or I can minimize it, or I can deny it, or I can exaggerate it. I can put whatever spin I want on it, but at the end of the day, it is what it is going to be. And that's the wild card quality of the universe. So we're going to take a break, and when I come back, I'm going to give you some more tactics and skills on how to manage the emotional realms, the emotional tensions that surface when the fire gets really hot. So we're going to talk about how to battle those dragons when things just aren't jiving your way. Stay tuned.
It's Monday morning. I'm drained.
You've got mail.
Look at this. It's the Monday Advantage video. Yeah! Now I can get past the distractions and implement something new. The Monday Advantage. It's that easy. Just subscribe free for a limited time at highlevelperformance.com. Every Monday, launch the week with fresh tools, giving you the right state of mind, focus, and confidence. See what becoming a gifted boss and serial creator is all about. Subscribe today at highlevelperformance.com. That's highlevelperformance.com. And start enjoying your Monday Advantage today. Grow your business and grow as a human being with these captivating books authored by the VIP coach himself, John Davidson. The Day I Built My Barbecue is about creative freedom. Learn how you can not only live well, but also grow a thriving business at the same time. John shows you his step-by-step technique with the principles, strategies, and steps to move from a business operator to a business owner. The day you build your barbecue is the day we all wish for. Totally free of distractions, totally available to living well, fully present. Then don't miss Unstoppable You. It's about creative value. When we do what we love and love what we do, we discover ways to make our business more fun and monetize our passions. Through stories, tools, and steps, this book will help you bring something to the world that no one else can and bridge your most unique talents to the deepest aspirations you have of the future. And stand in the presence of all you are. It's about creative purpose. What does it mean to live on purpose? How do we work with the mystery that life presents us at every moment? In this book, John shows us through the silent spaces in life how to connect with our innermost sacred projects and passages. You'll learn how to bring the work, language, and presence of the soul into everything you do. Visit highlevelperformance.com to pick up any of these books in paperback or Kindle editions today. That's highlevelperformance.com. Having a life where you have the creative freedom to do what you love and to offer the world something that only you can bring to the table. That is the world of high-level performance with John Davidson. That is the world of radical creativity. That is the world that you can be a part of when you realize all that is holding you back is you. Begin the journey through one-on-one coaching that gives you the finesse for business and lifetime achievement, and find your place on the roadmap to high-level performance today. Visit highlevelperformance.com. What matters to me? What is my true work? Monetize your passion and enjoy creative freedom with the VIP Coach. You're listening to Radical Creativity with Executive Performance Coach John Davidson.
All right. We're talking about making space. Making space. You know, making space is more about making space in ourselves than it is about making the space that's needed around us, making space for alternative realities, making space for the inevitable changes that current reality presents us. You know, we're constantly in a process where reality is shifting. We're like riflemen on islands that are aimed on targets. And yet the context that we're standing in, the very thing that's cradling our position, is always in motion. We realize that reality, by nature, is impermanent. You see, it never, ever, ever, ever stays the same. So for you to head forward into the horizon thinking that always better days will come is folly. It's a fallacy. It's you pretending for your survival that everything will be great, or you've gotten hooked into this human potential idea of if I think more positively, that will cause things to be more positive. That is not true. In fact, it actually is worse. If you start to make up a story, or if you pretend that something is going on that really you should be looking at, because it's kind of an acquired taste to look at reality, if something is in fact negative, but you're putting a positive spin on it, What kind of reactions are you going to have? What kind of decisions are you going to make? You're going to be making decisions based on the wrong position. If I'm going to Chicago and I think I'm in Branson, Missouri, but I'm in Los Angeles, I'm going to run out of gas. I don't know what it's going to really take to get there. So this calls upon a very direct relationship with the truth, with reality, with what's going on. We don't like to look at it because sometimes things need to change. But I've noticed over moments when I'm creating something, those real moments when things aren't really jiving, when there's space, when the prospect isn't buying, when things aren't happening the way they're supposed to play out, when the check didn't come in the mail, when things didn't play out, there's learning. Can you grant power to reality as your teacher? How could you do that? You have to use your quality of awareness. You have to use your quality of awareness. So number one, to do that, stop repressing or telling yourself that it's not about getting emotional. See, you're downplaying the fact that you're emotional. You are an emotional being. You are circuited to be emotional. Just because you're emotional doesn't mean that you are short-circuited to create. Creating is a process of focusing your attention on your creation, on reality, not you. So the very first thing you can do to become better at creating is to change the terms that you're on with reality. You see, your identity is not married to reality. You got to wake up from this. Use your awareness to know that whatever you think of yourself, whether it's low or high or bad or good, whatever editing you've done of yourself, whatever concepts you've made up about you, are concepts you've made up about you. Get to know them. And once you get to know them, you've kind of diffused them in fooling you when things don't go well. You'll still have reactions. You'll still be emotional. You're human. Get intimate with those feelings. Just because you notice them, just because you acknowledge them, doesn't mean that you give them the kind of cadence that disrupts your thinking, that disrupts your motion, that disrupts your mobilization. Emotions are emotions. You feel what you feel. Don't deny what you feel. So whatever rackets you have about tension or doubts or whatever emotions there are, turn toward them. Turn toward them like an old friend. Well, what is it that you need? Oh, okay, great. Well, I'm emotional right now. You get into the present moment with it. Well, things are not going well right now. Well, I'm emotional right now. Here's why. Here's the thought that I'm having right now. Instead of saying I should or I shouldn't or I'm supposed to or I'm supposed to. See, your ideals come into play. When things don't go well, when suddenly you hit a wall, your ideals pop up. And you say, oh, but I'm supposed to live up to this. Oh, I'm supposed to be more charismatic. What does this mean? Oh, I'm supposed to be more intelligent. What does this mean? Oh, I heard this about me. Oh, boy, this is really coming down. I wonder what this says about me. Oh, I might find out I'm not special. Oh, I might not get noticed. Oh, I might be the person that I'm afraid I am. And so shame has a way of running you instead of just living with the shame. And not trying to correct it, not trying to decompose it, not trying to evaporate it, not trying to immunize it, not trying to reprogram it, not trying to act like it's not there, not trying to put a veneer over it that everything's honky-dory. Just living with the facts, being a newsman, not an editor. What that does is that calls forth a strength. It brings out a natural built-in strength that you will encounter when you commit fundamentally to being true to yourself. Choose to be true to you. When you're true to yourself, you are your friend, because friends are ones who are true to another. When you are true to yourself about what's going on, about what you feel, about what you think, about what the moment is, you have a chance. You're separate enough from it by observing it from that standpoint. You are keenly aware of it objectively to help it help you. It's a positioning system. You're positioning yourself to evoke something, to evoke leadership, to evoke knowing what to do because you're close and intimate with reality. You're not playing around. Reality can be your teacher. You'll need to change something. Yes, you might. Yes, you may. It may be saying to you, make these adjustments, JD. You know, your book's not coming into being in 6 months. Here's what else is needed. Write chapters 15 through 20. You know, you will not know what the space meant. You will not know what this head-scratching doldrum means until you cross it. Until you move through it, you will only get the meaning of it looking back. But throughout it, you have to know that what it is needed by the future in some way. See, the question becomes, what is perfect about this thing that's not perfect? That's not positive thinking. That's knowing that this is a learning step or stage in the evolution of what I'm creating that may not be what I think. It's bypassing my experience. It is outside the lines of what's compatible with my beliefs. This is unbelievable territory. That's what we call it. But you're encountering unbelievable territory. You're actually seeing beyond your seeing. When you allow the truth not to be just relative, but when you see truth, you want to see it absolutely. You want to find what is the truth in of itself for its own sake. And when you say to yourself, when you recite the truth to yourself for its own sake, this is what I have versus this is what I want. This is what I have versus this is what I want. This is what's going on. This is good. This is working. This is not working. When you get there, it's like rapid cycle learning. You learn by bringing something into being that you care about. But in order to do that, you're going to need to work through the assimilation periods where nothing seems to be happening, but you're in the process of absorbing and marinating new skills. You're in the process of absorbing and marinating. I look at it like learning to sailboard. You know, on the one hand, I'm learning, and the waves are kicking my ass, and I want to swim into the beach. This is nerve-wracking. You know, there's so much space right now in order for me to get enough practice under my belt to enjoy this. So my level of misery is way below my level of enjoyment. And I'm noticing that the better and more skillful I get, the more my misery goes away. But I can endure that period, that swath of time between the level of skills that I have and the challenge that I'm going after. And as my level of skills go up, my levels of pleasure goes up, my levels of involvement go up because my skills are going up. But I have the willingness to surrender to looking like a fool. Now we've hit the territory, haven't we? Are you willing to look like a fool? Because a lot of times in the creative process, you're not looking good. You're not the man. You're not the one who's got all the answers. People are going to wonder, oh boy, what are they going to think of me? How do I let go of that? Well, I just understand it. I understand that those are part of what my ego holds me hostage to. My self-image has distorted reality. I don't want to look at reality because then that would interrupt this concept that I'm holding to myself. I'm supposed to be X. I can't be this, but I got to be this. So the minute something doesn't fit within that or isn't consistent with it, I'm having an identity quake. Oh boy, I'm shooting an arrow into myself. On the other hand, maybe I could be more aware of what's going on, including myself and current reality, and maybe I could just leave it as is, state it in the present moment. I'm here. I'm in this. This is what's happening. This is where I want to go. And all in that moment, I bring both of those together, right next to each other, juxtaposed. What am I doing and where am I going? And maybe what I'm in right now is a very negative situation. Maybe it's a situation that is collapsing. Maybe it is a business that wants to end and I'm holding on to it. But I've got to come to an honest ear with it. Maybe it is a relationship that's ready to end and I'm just holding on. I'm holding on and I'm protecting my feelings about it. Or I don't want to get a divorce because of the financial damage it's going to incur. Or I'm going to feel so isolated, but I'm holding on for something even though the overall structure is wanting to say, let go, we're done. Or I'm in that moment and I need the time to really reflect and kind of see what's going on in order for me to understand my next step. But instead I get so scared and I try to control and manipulate the prospect into buying. And I screw it up. I press too hard. I try to control it. See, what happens is psychologically we have certain ways in our personality that we become inflexible. We don't have that mind like water that Bruce Lee talked about and worked on. Bruce Lee, right? The fighter. He said, be a mind like water, but to be flexible, we forget how much work that takes. To be really flexible requires such an awareness where we grant power to the reality in such a way that we actually fall into our transparency. We allow ourselves to be lived while we are living forward into the intentions that we have. We are combining the mystery right next to the intention. that the mystery is unfolding like a mystery, right? We can't predict the future, but it's unfolding as we are moving toward what we intend to create. And that unfolding has kind of it's a vacancy where it has space within us and outside of us to fill. There's something new that wants to rush in. And we have to make space for those things. So we can't clutter up our thinking with what things mean all the time. We have to just look straight at them. We can't clutter up ourselves and get irritated and move into our cynicism and push everybody away because we're having a hard time. That's difficult. It makes it even worse. If we sink into our fear, we get mired in that and start playing out all what's around the corner. And, I get paralyzed in my fear. Wait a minute, let's unwind that. Is it real or is it perceived? How are we talking to ourselves? What are we bringing into the reality? Are we bringing the past? Are we bringing the future that has to come? Are we bringing the way someone's thinking about us and how we're shaping their impressions into our actions? Are we also operating out of our opinions of ourselves? What are we bringing into reality? How are we coming into understanding the moment that's not working? How are we coming into understanding? Could we require an understanding of us that is pastless, futureless? It's not based on what others think or not based on what we think of ourselves, but that we bring into this moment nowhere. We come into this with just the present moment itself. I suppose that's really the art of living, is being able to live forward into the mystery with great curiosity and learn while we remain wide open and allow the universe to prevail and move in the direction that the lawful universe needs to go. That we realize that we only sculpt so much of the story. And then we must let go and let ourselves be lived. And it's this combination, this eclipse of the intention to where we're going and the attention to the present moment that I think positions our greatest quality of expression and our greatest usefulness as a human being. We will bring ourselves into all we are if we can come to terms with those 2 points. So knowing where I'm going in those moments when things aren't going my way, and knowing that the mystery of life is beholding exactly what it's supposed to, exactly what the future needs, lands me into a resting place with myself to truly be happy, to live through the changes, be changed by them, but have a deeper underbelly of knowing that everything the future is needing is being given to me in this moment. That's how we play it. And that takes practice. That's where coaching comes in. So thank you for listening to our show today, folks. This is called Radical Creativity. It is our Radical Creativity podcast. We do one every month. You can go to our website at highlevelperformance.com. We also have a video series, as we mentioned in our commercial, The Monday Advantage, which comes out every week. If you'd like to kickstart your week with an ounce of coaching and you'd like to get it free for a limited time, we have The Monday Advantage. You can go to our website and subscribe, and we'll get you the Monday Advantage by 7 a.m. every Monday morning that has some implementable, shrinkable step that you can implement within reach. We also have our VIP coach program. If you're serious about going to the next level and you appreciate the organization, structure, clarity, and guidance and accountability of a world-class companion and wingman, a coach, and you think that at this time in your life, based on how you're playing life, you'd like help, you know that you're not the one with all the answers, and it's better that you share intelligence with another, then you're ready to get help, and that's a skill. And that will reposition you and help you go to the next level, because that kind of vulnerability, it's what's necessary to go to that next level. You can reach us at 714-375-6624, 714-375-6624. We're at highlevelperformance.com. You're listening to the Radical Creativity Podcast. Have an outstanding week. Thank you for following us. We really appreciate you. And find us on Facebook. You can look up the VIP Coach on Facebook, or myself, John Davidson, Coach JD. Have a great week. Thanks a lot.
For more tools on how to liberate your gifts, become more valuable, and on purpose through radical creativity with executive performance coach John Davidson, visit highlevelperformance.com. And be sure to follow John on Facebook. Check back soon to continue the journey toward radical creativity.